Hello and welcome to Moving Through Menopause Madness with the Collective this morning. We're already having fun without you, so I'm glad you could join us. And we're having fun despite the fact that Tamar Chalice has a reported positive COVID in the house. Uh-oh. So just to say, welcome to everybody listening and welcome to the collective. Tamar Chalice, I've already mentioned, counsellor, Nikki Chapman, no, I say that every time, Nikki Chamberlain, wellness coach, and Claire the Oily Witch. We love Claire and her oils. We love all this wonderful stuff. So thank you so much for joining us, ladies. Thank you so much for those of you here with me in the room. Let's get cracking. Without further ado, we're talking, emotions. And honestly, my emotions through menopause, talk about Blackpool illuminations. It was the roller coaster. They're coming up in October, which is obviously why I was thinking about it. The roller coaster of emotion. For me, my GP prescribed antidepressants on numerous occasions when really that wasn't what was required. And that really disappointed me. And actually, that's what capitulated me on this journey to find out as much as I possibly could and to gather people around me who knew more than I did about these kinds of things. So moods, emotions, Tamar, over to you.
Over to you. So just to say that antidepressants aren't always the right thing to do, but they're often not the right thing to do. So it's kind of a personal journey. So menopause can bring genuine depression or anxiety or just symptoms that look like that. So have a chat with your GP. It might be the right thing, but it might not.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, that there is always a place for those medications. Mild to moderate symptoms can be managed with lifestyle approaches. And so these are the kinds of approaches that we're talking about today. A special, I love the oils. I'm going to say, Claire, I absolutely love the lift that you can get just from that smell of citrus. I love it.
It's true. Absolutely. In terms of managing those symptoms, and depression and anxiety is a very real symptom with menopause, naturally, then essential oils are the medicinal part of the plant. So they give you a really strong experience. It's not just a nice smell. It's actually affecting the chemistry in your body. These are powerful, potent chemical compounds even, and they have a direct impact on your hormones. So if you get the right oil, then you can rebalance yourself and achieve the homeostasis that your body is after. And it just depends on which particular smells work for you. You've mentioned citrus working for you, Philippa. I'm more of a floral girl. What about the rest of you? What are your scents? Are you spicy, floral? What do you guys go for?
I do like a floral scent.
Yeah, I got to say, I think I'm with you on the floral one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so we got geranium, which is fabulous for hormone balancing and anxiety. You've got rose, which, is just love in a bottle. Other oils that are really helpful would be peppermint. That is really good for anxiety, because quite often with anxiety, there's a breathness element to it, the panic. And the peppermint just helps to restore you into your body and ground you. And lavender does the same thing. So lavender's like halfway between peppermints of the world and the florals. And that's like a lovely calmant that I would recommend can be used, because the anxiety is hideous. For me, it was an unexpected guest at the party, an unwelcome guest that I'd never been a particularly anxious person. And now I can pretty much freak out about anything and everything. And I'm just like, this is so horrible to feel so completely overwhelmed by just the minutiae and the mundane aspects of life. So I use a lot of natural remedies, and yeah, essential oils are really good.
I had exactly the same. You know, I have this anxiety that is something that I've never known or never had before, and it's you know it's quite scary, and it feels like it's not me, and you know I don't like it either. So you know I totally get that.
Always realize that that is menopause. They don't realize that there's a link between those two things. So the GP treats them for the anxiety with the anti-anxiety meds, but actually there's core stuff that they should be looking at. This is just an outcome of it.
Tell us more about that, Tamar. What is the core stuff?
So, you know, it's probably hormone imbalances, because, you know, everything's driven by a hormone. And so it's not necessarily that work's difficult, but it may be that your hormones are out of balance, so you can't perform at work. So therefore you're becoming anxious about work. And so you end up in these huge cycles, and it all comes down to the fact that your hormones are all over the place because you're going through the menopause. But people don't always make those links. And so you're treating an outcome instead of the core.
There is something to do with the mental side of things as well, because if you are feeling that you're going through this enormous change in your life, you know, for some people it's a real mourning, isn't it, of, you know, the final stage of the evolution, the crone phase that they don't particularly want to go into. They're suddenly feeling old. Then the whole mental kind of impact on your emotional health impacts your physical health as well.
Yeah, and you could be changing your diet to try and mitigate the fact that you're feeling old, but then that can have a negative effect on your physical well-being. And again, you're in that cycle. So you've got to kind of look at all these different aspects. You've got to look at your diet, your exercise, your lifestyle, your support network, you know, all these different things. It's never just one.
No, it's never just one thing. And that's why we're together really today, because, and every other day when we'll be together, because it is a multifaceted problem. The hormones have effects through the whole of the body. Estrogen receptors in the brain, the heart, the muscle, the bone, every bit of us, and the brain. You know, and this is where the imbalance in the hormones speaks to those parts of the brain that are responsible for mood moderation, and so moods are disrupted as a consequence. PMT on speed. I mean, it's and you know, for me, the roller coaster was PMT. You know, I had as a younger woman, but this really was PMT on speed, and I just felt that I had maybe 2 days a month when I didn't have PMT. So that was the shift for me. You know, that the moods, instead of being the cyclical thing, and maybe somebody says, "Oh, is it that time of the month?" You know, it was just all the time. That I was feeling just all over the place with the moods, and that there's no doubt that that was hormone related. The fluctuations that occur. You know, the thing we want people to know is you are not on your own, and you know, strictly speaking, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that your body is going through this natural process which plays havoc with your system for a period of time. And so finding strategies that we can use to deal with these situations is a big part of the work that I do. That's not to say, of course, that hormone replacement therapy is not a piece of that puzzle, because it definitely is. So for women that's amenable for hormone replacements, and we know that's not the case for everyone. Not everyone can have hormones, even if they wanted them. But for those women who can, that of course is definitely a piece of the puzzle. But that these lifestyle measures that we can take in conjunction with conventional medications, as and when required, is what I really love to embrace. You know, and so with movement for me, it's knowing that just standing up increases the blood flow to the brain, and if we bring blood, we bring oxygen, we bring all the things that are necessary for healing. And we can balance mood and emotions with movement. We can balance mood and emotions with aromas, we know that, but and with thought processes as well, because that thing for me where your mind runs away with you and takes you down the rabbit hole, and you have to kind of intervene consciously with that, Tamar. So, you know, particular strategies to help people to, one, notice when things are going awry, because sometimes we're just so consumed with life. You know, life is hitting us left, right, and center. and we're busy with that. But if we get the opportunity to notice how we're feeling and what's happening, and maybe this shift is occurring and we don't know, what, but what can we do is the thing. What sort of strategies can we use over and above, movement, as I mentioned?
So everything has to be learned and practiced. So I remember in my PMT days, I could hear myself being completely unreasonable, and I knew I was doing it, but it wasn't until afterwards I could go, yeah, that was a bit unreasonable. So there's something here about learning your triggers. So what winds you up when, the other half does something particularly annoying, and rather than completely losing it, sort of taking that step back. So it's practicing learning your triggers for one, and then practicing what to do with them. So have the people around you know your triggers, and it really upsets me when you do this, so perhaps we could do it this way, and having those conversations and making sure your support network is kind of on your side and understands what's happening, and acknowledging and going, sometimes I am going to be completely unreasonable, this will happen, and this is how you can help me through that, and this is what I'm doing to try and help. So it's knowing your triggers, learning them, and then practicing dealing with it in the moment instead of that afterthought of, oh yeah, I was a bit out of hand there, and some people genuinely think they're going mad during this time. They honestly think, I am not me, I am going completely mad. And some ladies even end up suicidal because they just can't cope with this.
Yeah.
It can get really out of hand. I don't know if any of you want to add anything around that.
Well, definitely thought I was going mad. Absolutely, no shadow of a doubt. Unfortunately, so did the people that I lived with. But literally, it's like a personality transplant has occurred for some people, and I am putting my hand up for that one. So, and then yes, you're right. Have these conversations with your nearest and dearest that I don't feel like myself, and that was the truth of it. I don't feel like myself. I am going to do things and say things that really, under no usual circumstances, I might not do. And then that piece around, this is what you can do to help me, generally involved people running for the hills, But,
give me a timeout.
yeah, but that's a really important conversation, because I know that I had, around this time, I had teenage children who I love dearly, and really feel, on retrospect, now that my hormones are helped by the patch, that I was really difficult to live with for a time. And as as a parent, as a mother, the guilt just never goes, and so I kind of have that. But we do have conversations. I think that's the most important thing, isn't it? To keep the dialogue open. And so,
especially
Nikki,
if your teenagers are having hormones at the same time, you've got a perfect storm there, haven't you? But it's not just the people around, it could be your boss at work or your colleagues, where once you may have led really important meetings and suddenly you're completely melting and sweating everywhere. You can't remember your train of thought, and you've forgotten who you are and what your job is. So there's something around putting that in place, that perhaps you're better in the mornings and the afternoons. So make sure the presentation happens then, or you've taken your oils to work, Claire. So you've prepped yourself before. It's about everyone around you. It isn't just the people that you live with, because this can be quite far-reaching.
Yeah. And I know Nikki did live through this in the workplace, and I talk about the people at home because I work for myself, and mostly those were the people that I was around. But Nikki, you did live through this in the workplace.
Yeah, I did. It was a really challenging time, actually. I can totally relate to the whole scenario of you don't recognize yourself. I was going through a phase where I was in a job that I'd been in and, working my way up for sort of 20 or so years. And all of a sudden, I just didn't like it anymore. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I didn't know what it was. It just didn't fit. It just didn't feel like it was me. And I had other issues around kind of memory and brain fog and stuff like that. And I found that I completely lost my confidence. I'd been doing this stuff for years and years, and I knew that I was good at what I was doing, and I knew that I knew my stuff. But my confidence was literally just going through the floor. And the slightest little comment from somebody that suggested that perhaps they weren't happy with something, or it might have even sometimes just been a genuine question, and I took it completely personally, like they were questioning me and my capability and my ability, and it just became untenable for me. And in the end, I am now one of those statistics who has left the workplace for that reason.
One of the positives, I think, of the pandemic, and some people are continuing to work from home, is that if you are having a hot flush, you can sit in a meeting with a smart top and just sit in your knickers with a fan under the desk, because who would know? It gives you that flexibility, where in old style workplaces, and I know some people are still in them, a big shared office, perhaps with aircon, where the youngsters are freezing, the old guys are boiling hot, and then you've got the menopausal lady sweating to death in the corner. Getting that balance and having those adjustments in place, like let them sit by the window or let them have an office where they can keep it a bit cooler. So that is one of the positives. I mean, I'm working from home possibly permanently now, and I'm coming into menopause, so I'm quite glad about that I could sit in my pants if I had to.
That's like you're revealing your secrets there, Tamar.
A friend of mine did a job interview in her pants the other week because she was having a really bad hot flush. Said it's fine, but what if the webcam had dropped? I thought that was a really good idea, so I've banked that one.
Yeah, I mean, the working from home is for some people a real new lease of life. The fact that you can be in your leggings and not have to wear ridiculous shoes all the time, speaking from a woman's perspective, not that I ever did, but I do think that has its advantages, undoubtedly. But the other side of that is this loneliness associated with that. And that's the thing that, you sometimes feel very alone with this. And that in part because the way in which we experience these symptoms is so very different for different people. I think that undoubtedly the parallels are there to be drawn. Hot flushes, yes. Anxiety is definitely one of the ones that, like you say, Tamar, people are still not necessarily realizing that's what this is. And I think sometimes we don't even realize that we have these elevated levels of anxiety. And that is because your body is constantly adjusting and accommodating to a new version of reality. And so that you are not, and so many of our processes are subconscious, so that we're not necessarily the best at noticing. And then if somebody else noticed, well, I feel sorry for them. Is all I would say. But do you know what I mean? So we need to bring this awareness around ourselves. Mindfulness is a practice that I've been exposed to more latterly in my life, and although my movement practices are mindful inherently, still, I stand to learn from this how to tune in to what we're feeling, to really notice how that manifests, and then I guess a level of acceptance around some of this stuff is really important too.
It's such a huge change, isn't it? Because our bodies are changing at the same time. With these changes in hormone levels, we can't lose that weight as quickly as we could. There's a thing called barreling where you get a bit round around the middle, and especially ladies that have been particularly focused on their appearance before, when they suddenly lose this control, can be really quite hard. And so having people around you that know what you're going through, so meeting like-minded people such as our good selves, is really important. And a lot of people, I think, shed a lot of old relationships that aren't serving them anymore at this time, because they don't really get what they're going through. Or, the ladies, your how can I say this politely? Your capacity for putting up with other people's rubbish lessens during this time. And, some relationships do fall away because you think, I haven't got time for that nonsense anymore. And so you kind of have an adjustment in your friendships and relationships. And I think finding ladies that are going through this is really important, because as Philippa says, everyone's experience is different. And it's really nice to say to someone, this is happening. Has it happened to you? And it maybe doesn't, but they might have something equally gross that's happening. And then, it's a shared experience. You don't feel quite so alien and old and weird.
No. And I know, Claire, your menopause was thrust upon you suddenly, and with surgical intervention, and that's a whole set of circumstances different to what I've experienced.
Yeah, not a gentle ebbing off the cliff, just a full-scale dive. Yeah, and I'll say, like, I was working before I went through that, but I was already possibly early stages, and I found the discomfort of not being able to finish my sentences, as you were saying, Nikki, and just losing the thread of where I was. It was baby brain all over again, and just feeling like lost in that, and hugely angry that I had to go through this, and I had to share with people that I was going through this in order for them not to think that I was not very good at my job. And I thought, how many men have to turn around and go, by the way, I'm going through the change. So if I forget what I'm talking about, or I turn up at this meeting without all the things I thought I would have, or I've even forgotten who I'm meeting, please don't think it's a capability issue as such. It's actually something natural happening to me. So I also started working for myself at that point, because I was like, I just don't want to keep on having those conversations, and wanted to completely change direction and do what I wanted to do. So I would say to anybody that is really hating their work or anything like that, that, you will find a way through, and what you'll find is often better because you find yourself in amongst it all. And as you say, Tamar, that ability to put up with things anymore is lost. There's a very short journey from what's up here to what comes out here. It's all very laid bare. And living in that honesty is really uncomfortable, but is ultimately honoring your truth, and is very empowering. Things that I've found other than oils that really help are my teas, herbal teas. I find I get tremendous, and I give tremendous satisfaction to people with that, because that's something you can control when you're going to have the tea, and it's going to act on you in such a way that it's going to like stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system and dial down your sympathetic nervous system, so that you feel you don't care as much. You're more relaxed about the fact that you've forgotten everyone's name, because really at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. They can easily remind you of their name. And there's some really good herbs like St. John's wort. Motherwort is another one if you're just feeling the need to feel embraced and loved. Red clover is really good for balancing estrogen levels. Herbs like black cohosh, which I know a lot of people have heard of black cohosh. There's herbs like skullcap, which is really good for putting it all together. There's herbs like vervain, mullein, which just stop all the overthinking and the anxiety created like obsessional thought patterns that can, when you can remember what on earth you got worried about in the first place. There's teas and like rose again, marigold for feeling I can cope. There is a dawn after today. I can go to sleep and forget it all and just wake up the next day. So I'd say there's a lot of herbs that people can try to success. And you can take those obviously into work and brew them on your desk and drink that all day. Also vitamins, lovely mega vitamin dosing, but there's certain vitamins that are extremely supportive for menopause. And we're talking here like vitamin B3, which is niacin, which also gives you flushes. You can buy the niacinamide, which doesn't give you a flush, but that really helps to just calm down those anxious feelings. And if you combine that with magnesium and vitamin C, you're onto a winner. You will totally chill out. So you can do things like that on the go. So you've got your teas, your oils, your vitamins, you're supporting yourself. We talked about diet, exercise, positive mental attitude. And it's all about this acceptance and seeing this as an opportunity rather than being a victim of it, really. Yeah. And really easy to be a victim and not know what's going on because you're living in such a busy life. And when it happens to feel really angry like I did and frustrated about the fact that you've got to go through it. But the point is you do have to go through it. You can't go around it. So
No, you can't go around it. There's a song about that.
There is. You can't go through it. You can't go under it. You can't go around it. Yeah, you've just got to get through it as you go on your bear hunt towards sanity and the other side of menopause, which is blissful because you don't have any of those worries and stuff. I still have legacy anxiety, but have you still got that, Nikki? Legacy anxiety?
Yeah, I've still got that. Yeah, definitely.
It's really frustrating. I put that down to being really psychic. So maybe you're really psychic, because I feel that that's kind of like intuition, really heightened intuition. And I'm getting anxious about things. And, it's because there's something not quite right. And I just need to take a breath and stop and calm in the middle of the storm and try and work out what my antennae is telling me.
Well, I think you can be a bit too much in your head sometimes with these things, and generating balance is this homeostatic principle, is that we're trying to create balance in all things, and too much of any one thing sometimes is enough to tip us over the edge. So I do tend to live a bit too much in my head, and that can really fuel these cycles of overthinking and fuel a downward spiral into anxiety and such. So, but to be aware of our own propensities, because this is different, as we said, for everyone. And if we've got that awareness and we've generated some self-knowledge, then it's really about putting a plan in place to move forwards, and having mentioned all the different facets that you could seek out assistance with. Sometimes you need somebody to put that puzzle together for you, and this is where Nikki's health coaching expertise comes into operation. So Nikki, tell us a little bit about what you could help us with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of words that have been mentioned already, that sort of really ones that I picked up on. One which is awareness, and the other one which is opportunity. And obviously, the key to managing all of this is the awareness and recognizing that is, it is menopause that's causing these issues. But also the ladies that I work with, and I guess also from my own example. So my own example is that, I couldn't continue in the situation that I was in anymore. I left the workplace. I have retrained to become a health coach. And it's actually feels like what I was meant to do my whole life. It's what my passion is. So it was something that has now given me the opportunity to move forward for the rest of my life, doing the things that I want to do, and hopefully helping others to do the same. Because my focus is definitely on the mindset and the opportunity that this stage of life brings. The early stages of your life is almost just getting through, kind of getting through sort of school and puberty and kind of learning how to grow into a young adult, then kind of getting through the whole finding, your perfect partner in life and having the family and kind of, getting the house and all that sort of stuff and all the mistakes that you make along the way. And then you get to a point in life, you get to our stage in life. We've already talked about the fact that, we care less in the nicest possible sense. We've got all this wisdom, all this experience, and we've got this opportunity now where, if you have children, they're probably less dependent on you. That gives you kind of some of your life back, some of your time and your freedom to grab this opportunity with both hands and say, what do I want the rest of my life to look like? How can I create the next chapter of my life as exciting and adventurous and something for me, something that puts me at the center of it? And what are those goals and dreams that I might have put on hold, or maybe even didn't even think that I had, that I can move forward with? And, that's through a combination of having great health and wellness to support you moving forward, and finding the accountability and the motivation to say, this is now what my life is going to look like in the future. And that's something that for me is really exciting to work on, because, you know, I feel like I'm only kind of at the start of exploring this new opportunity for, you know, moving forward. So yeah, so that's the way that I, you know, love to help other ladies kind of move forward. You know, we started off talking about things that were very difficult and very uncomfortable, and the, you know, the symptoms that we might feel which aren't great. There's a whole world of opportunity beyond that if we put steps in place to manage the symptoms, work through them, and then see what life looks like.
And I absolutely think that this is the whole point, that, you know, we do need to understand what those symptoms are when they visit us, so that we can put action plans into place, strategies to cope with and deal with them. And then to really, you know, grab the baton and run with it, and reinvent yourself if that's what's required. Take some time to nurture yourself, look after yourself and care for yourself, because you know, you are now perhaps in a position to be top of your own list. So, you know, let's put ourselves top of our own lists and take some self responsibility for this next wonderful phase that we enter with wisdom and knowledge. And you know, let's do this thing, okay? All right. Well,
Yep.
thank you all so much for your time today. I've, as always, thoroughly enjoyed myself. So thank you to anyone who listens to this. It's wonderful to have you along on this journey with us. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help you, support you on your journey. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to throw them at us. And for now, let's leave it at that and have a fabulous rest of your day, everybody. Take care and say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.